Deleted session. April 13, 1981. Now, we will begin briefly and gently. Ruber's feelings of physical mobility are to some extent connected with his feelings of creative mobility. That is, the connections are strong. As far as dilemmas go, he feels one as far as Prentice is concerned, since he sees Prentice as a vehicle that moves his work out into the public arena, and he feels that that vehicle is at best presently stored, while no other one is in immediate practical sight. Both the change in Tan's position and the changes that take place in the company contributed, along with your own strong dissatisfactions with Prentice to begin with. Creatively, on that level alone, he also feels stored, since he does not know whether or not to continue with my book, or whether or not to begin one of his own. So you have a stored mobility, without any particular decisions being made of a clear-cut nature. In that kind of period, he is more apt to be dissatisfied, brood about his physical condition, and therefore aggravate his symptoms. They are, however, the exterior picture of the inner one, to go ahead or to retreat. To go ahead in what direction? Instead, the situation is a stored one. In the background there is, of course, his reaction to the two books. Some of that material I have given. Some is difficult to explain clearly, because Ruber wanted to make sure of the validity of the sessions from the start, and because of other material given in the past. He did not fully accept the sessions or his own psychic abilities as an integral part of his personality, since they appeared relatively late in life, where the poetry, for example, had always more or less been apparent. He felt a strong commitment to poetry and writing. He could not early accept the idea of having a mission in life outside of the simple one to write, which always propelled him. He examined the sessions thoroughly then for years, not feeling the same kind of self-assurance as he did, you see, with his own writing. His own writing underwent its own kinds of transformation, however, and indeed it began those translations years ago, even before the sessions, so that, for example, even the science fiction could no longer contain or camouflage the larger intuitive framework that he was developing. I have remarked before that part of the problem lies in discrepancies of growth. You spoke of some artists painting formula paintings. For Ruber to try to publish usual novels, for example, would not work. He has outgrown the formulas. At the same time, for many reasons, there has been a difficulty in accepting the natural patterns of his own individualistic growth, and that is partially because there were no neat categories in which they seemed to naturally fall. So in searching out new ways, personally and creatively, Ruber felt himself on insecure ground. That insecurity has largely prevented him from fully using his own abilities on his own behalf. He is gifted precisely with the kind of abilities that can clear up all of his problems. Fears, however, have prevented him from fully trusting or consistently trying such avenues. Not only fears, but the batteries of past beliefs, both on his part and yours, with their unfortunate patterns of behavior and conditioned responses. It is sometimes difficult for me to translate what I know about the situation into terms that you can accept jointly, because of the place of those beliefs and the accompanying habitual behavior and conditioning. I am aware of the pressing nature of your concerns and of the sharpness of the physical picture as you perceive it. Yet, I must continue to maintain the following points. A concentration upon a problem deepens it. An overly intense search for what is wrong is debilitating, particularly when you end up looking for events as scapegoats rather than for the beliefs with which certain events are perceived. Your feelings precisely that Rupert is on the brink of being bedridden are mainly now the result of negative conditioning. They seem very realistic. Certainly, the evidence seems to give those feelings at least some support. They are the end result of a recent concentration upon the problem, and in this case, you both fall into their sway at the same time. All of this involves you in the private nitty-gritty of dealing with the ways of thinking and reasoning that are so characteristic in your society and in your time. In certain areas where the contrasts in the other direction are as startling, you have largely escaped such conditioned behavior. You have escaped it because you have learned and grown easier in those directions, or you both consciously and unconsciously applied new concepts to those other areas. Ralph asked, like what areas? They said, I was ready to tell you. Those areas include the psychic one, the creative one, the financial one, and the mental one. That is, there are areas of your lives that operate quite smoothly, yet in a fashion almost outside of your conscious direction. What I mean is that these areas bring you most fruitful rewards, so that to a degree you take them for granted, without being aware of the manipulations that occur to bring them out. You might become accustomed to a very high quality of conceptual thought. For example, money comes to you in comfortable amounts. Creatively, you deal with events and episodes that are, by contrast with most people's lives, most remarkable. In those areas, you have grown beyond the negative conditioning of the society in large measure. Rupert's physical situation, therefore, seems even more apparent in the light of such contrasts. In the area of the symptoms, comparatively speaking, you have still more or less stayed in the same framework of behavior, relatively speaking, as others of your society, at least in many respects. Even there, you have learned, of course, and Rupert's knowledge and yours has helped you both in your health in many ways. But you have not used your abilities in that direction in the same fashion that you have otherwise, and in the newest attempt to help set him free. I hope to lead you in those directions. We will be dealing with Rupert's beliefs, of course, with the psyche and the books, and the other furniture of the mind that seems so obvious. But I hope to teach you to transform those issues into something else. I do not want to speak of great missions. Yet it is also true that, in its fashion, each creature's life is a mission, with all of its characteristics and abilities uniquely suited. Rupert's abilities carry along with them all of the support, protection, and strength he needs to use them freely and creatively, but he has not understood that that was so. That sentence should be completely underlined. You are conditioned to behave in certain fashions in times of stress. So it is indeed at such periods that old beliefs often seem to emerge with fresh force. I will deal with the situations involved, but I will also try to elicit the creative use of your own psychic and mental abilities, so that they can be directed specifically toward clearing up such issues. And I am, of course, willing to have daily sessions at your request. That is enough for this evening's beginner. Rob said, "May I ask a question?" They said, "You may." Rob said, "Why has he responded to his feeling? How did you put it?" They said, "The closest answer I can give you, I thought, was clear in tonight's session, but to clear it further. He believed that his motion was blacked. That belief was physically expressed. It was to bring the situation out into the open, as indeed the feelings of panic also served to make him consciously aware of the difficulty, a difficulty that basically has to do with psychological motion and growth. This subject is a part of one that I planned as an evening's discussion. Before, the feelings of panic remained largely hidden, and he has felt to some degree stored, of course, for some time, apart from the two books involved. Both physical stalling of late, and the dreams and occasional feelings of panic have been incentives of a kind to deal with the deeper beliefs. Those beliefs involve the freedom to move and grow safely and fully to one's capacities within the framework of your current society. Rob asked, "But what does he think he's doing? Why carry anything to such lengths?" They said, "Each personality is in a state of his own growth and development, and you cannot impose any standard demands upon such a process, however tempting it is to do so." Rob added, "But I don't think asking him to be able to walk is a standard demand. What good does his giving up his physical mobility do? There must be many other ways of calling attention to any problems than doing that." Seth replied patiently, "I am giving you the best information that I can, and it would be better if you read the session thoroughly and understood it before forming new questions." Rob said, "All right, but nothing I have said here is new. I have had these questions for years." They said, "I am aware of that." Rob said, "Okay." They said, "And I bid you a fond good evening." Rob said, "Good night." They said, "Have Ruber make one simple request, and no other, before sleep, that he receive therapeutic healing experiences at all levels of his existence as he sleeps, beginning this evening." End of session. Rob said, "Okay, thank you."